A lot of men aren't failing individually. They're responding to conditions that no longer make sense for human beings to live inside of, especially men. And the reason this feels so hard to talk about is that the usual explanations don't really explain it. They either blame men, pathologize men, or turn the whole thing into politics. None of that gets at what's actually happening. Men have always carried pressure. That part isn't new. Every society has asked something of its men, sometimes unfairly, sometimes brutally. But what is new is how that pressure resolves, or more accurately, how it doesn't anymore. Historically, pressure had somewhere to go. It discharged through role, through physical contribution, through apprenticeship, through ritual, through clear endings. You knew when you had crossed a line. You knew when a phase was over. You knew who you answered to and who answered to you. Even deeply flawed societies had mechanisms that let pressure move outward instead of turning inward. There were ways to be useful, to be needed, to be corrected, and eventually to stop. Modern systems removed many of those mechanisms without replacing their function. What replaced human-scale community wasn't freedom. It was abstraction. Work became metrics instead of mastery. Identity became legibility, being able to explain yourself on demand. Community became platforms. Support became bureaucracy. Longing became ideology. We traded neighbors for systems. We traded mentorship for management. We traded purpose for productivity. Modern systems replaced human-scale community with abstractions, then politicized the loss so nobody can talk about rebuilding it without getting labeled. That's not a cultural accident. That's a structural outcome. When life is abstract, your value gets measured indirectly. You're no longer needed because you're known or useful to people you can see. You're needed because you keep things running. You stay busy. You stay legible. You don't interrupt the flow. And as long as you're moving, nobody asks too many questions. This is where men start to internalize the damage. When a system has no dignified exits, people don't leave. They endure. They stay because leaving feels like exposure. They keep going because stopping sounds like a confession. Over time, structural strain turns into self-judgment. The system never says, "This setup is unsustainable." It says, "Maybe you just can't hack it." That's how pressure concentrates. You've already seen how this works if you've watched the earlier videos. Work becomes the thing that makes you socially explainable. Stopping feels like failure. Endurance gets mistaken for strength. Pressure that can't release turns inward. None of those are personal flaws. They're predictable responses to an environment that rewards motion and punishes reflection. But instead of examining the environment, we keep reaching for the wrong explanations. We talk about toxic masculinity. We talk about men refusing to adapt. We talk about awareness and therapy as if insight alone fixes isolation. You can't therapize your way out of structural isolation, and you can't shame people into feeling anchored. If the conditions themselves don't allow pressure to discharge, insight just teaches you to endure more consciously. Talking about male community now gets read as political. Not because community is ideological, but because abstraction benefits from isolation. When everything roots through systems, institutions, and platforms, people stop needing each other directly. Dependency moves upward. Reciprocity disappears. And any attempt to restore human-scale connection starts sounding suspicious. That's why rebuilding basic things, mentorship, shared responsibility, being useful to people you can actually see, gets framed as backward or partisan. Not because those needs disappeared, but because naming them threatens the abstractions that replace them. Rebuilding doesn't mean going backward. It doesn't mean recreating the past. It means restoring functions. It means mentorship instead of permanent self-navigation. It means usefulness instead of constant performance. It means shared responsibility instead of isolated pressure. It means exits that don't erase dignity. Those are human needs. They didn't become conservative or progressive. They just got caught in politics. This is what the channel is actually doing. It's not here to tell men what to believe. It's not here to recruit anyone into a worldview. It's not here to motivate or soothe. It's here to make the pressure legible so it stops getting mistaken for personal failure. Because when people can finally name what they're inside of, something important happens. The pressure loosens, not because life suddenly gets easier, but because the truth gets clearer. And clarity is the difference between adapting intelligently and breaking quietly. If any of this felt familiar, you're not broken for noticing it. And you're not alone for feeling it. You're responding to conditions that no longer fit the humans living inside them. It's the subject. Everything else on this channel is just different angles on that same reality.